Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick sort of tour around what we're doing, but just responding to what George said there. Obviously, John Lewis would sit very much on the traditional end of the spectrum, and you're probably all sitting here wondering, what on earth has John Lewis got to do with, sort of digital 21st century communications? So hopefully, as Nicole has talked about there, I'll just talk to you a little bit about the use case that we're talking about. But I'm just going to intro that a little bit by talking about why is John Lewis getting active in this space. So first of all, just a quick bit about John Lewis Partnership, for those of you who don't know. I'm not going to go into lots of detail here. We are made up of two businesses. So John Lewis Department Stores on the right, there are 40-odd stores or so, and Waitrose Supermarkets. We've obviously got e-commerce platforms across both of those. We've got a reasonably large financial services business. Roughly, the group is about an £11 billion turnover. This will become relevant in a minute. But also there's a little bit about John Lewis that some of you may not know. We're a slightly different type of organisation. So effectively, we are a company that is owned by all of the employees. So the guy on the left there is a guy called Speeden Lewis. Back in the 1920s or so, he was the owner of John Lewis, and he took a decision to put in trust the business for all of the employees who worked for them. And on the right there, you've got a particularly riveting read called Partnership for All, which is the book that documents what that means for all of us who work for it. Again, this will become relevant in a moment. So, we're retailers. And I think it's fair to say that retail is changing pretty quickly. Retail used to be a pretty simple business. It used to be about getting the right stock in the right place at the right time. That's changing. Fundamentally, customer behaviour has changed. We are now all, as consumers, just far more empowered. And we have, massive expectations about what organisations should do for us. Now, that can all be quite positive. There's lots of value in that. But increasingly, it's being seen as a market that lots of disruption is coming into. And I guess as we're looking at the overall business, we're seeing that we're having to evolve as an organisation and really sort of fundamentally change the relationship that we have with our customers. And I guess for us specifically, we talk a little bit about a paradigm shift. So what do I mean by that? Well, historically, our sources of competitive advantage have been very much people-based. So we have been known, hopefully by some people in the room, for giving, great service face-to-face. When you talk to people about, John Lewis or Waitrose, they say, oh, you tend to get really good customer service there, but that's been quite a human interaction. Now, the paradigm shift that we're seeing is, clearly, as human interactions become less relevant or certainly less frequent, and we all engage in different ways with brands, then how do we maintain those sources of competitive advantage? How do we ensure that the great service that we've been known for continues to evolve and adapt as we move forward? So part of our response to that, as Nicole mentioned, is we have set up a ventures unit, so JLP Ventures, of which I am part. There's a couple of guys in the audience today. So we're not unusual in setting up a ventures unit. Quite a number of sort of corporates have done that as well. But I guess our narrative is a little bit different. And this rather an exciting graph, I guess, just pulls apart a little bit about what we're trying to do. So down here we've got John Lewis and Waitrose very much playing in their existing markets for our target customers. What we're trying to do in ventures is we're trying to understand what are the other things that our customers want us to do for them. There are two pretty good brands down there in the bottom left, but where can we stretch with our customers too? And unfortunately, our customers are pretty unhelpful in this space. When you go and speak to them and say, what else could John Lewis do for you? They sort of say, oh, John Lewis can do anything for me. And that can be pretty dangerous for us because you can end up in the situation where you can believe that actually industries that customers are just unhappy with, we can come in and make it different. And I don't think there's anybody in the room here, but utilities is the one that is most often thrown at us. The problem is, everybody just hates utilities because it's a necessary evil. You have to pay for it, and nobody does it particularly well. We don't believe we can go in and make the utilities business fundamentally better. So we've got to be just a little bit careful about what we're doing. So we're really looking for opportunities about how we can diversify the brands a little bit more, recognising that we're still a retailer at heart, but diversify away, do more with customers and build the relationships with them in a different way. But as well as building new propositions, we've got quite a strong capability agenda. So the reason that there is a supertanker up there is, John Lewis is an £11 billion organisation. Nothing happens particularly quickly. I've been speaking to a couple of people this afternoon who have been saying, you don't move particularly quickly. That's absolutely true. It's fair, but it's relatively difficult to move an £11 billion organisation that quickly. We have big humps in the year where just nothing will happen. We basically lock down between September and January because we have to deliver the peak Christmas period because it's where so much of our profit comes from. And so part of what Ventures has been set up to do is to really explore and experiment what are some of the capabilities that we might want to use, and then we might want to seed into the main business. And we do that in service of various propositions. So the proposition that I'm just going to go on to talk to in a moment, is one of the things where we've gone out and we've started to use some of the new capability, but we have a real responsibility then to say, okay, how does this apply back into the main business? So, as Nicole mentioned, home solutions from John Lewis. Some of you may have heard we got some press on it in the last couple of weeks. And it's one of the first propositions that we have taken to market out of our ventures unit. It took us about 4 or 5 months to get off the ground from scratch, and is a pretty comprehensive solution. So really, what is it? Well, it's a connected marketplace for professionals, for trade professionals. We give our customers access to a really highly vetted and accredited array of trades across painters, decorators, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, landscapers, plasterers, the list goes on. Now you might say, well, that doesn't sound that dynamic. The interesting thing for us around that industry is it's an enormous business. Our customers tell us that it's an area where they have a lot of pain, and also it's incredibly fragmented. And so we believe that with our brand, we can come in and make a real difference to that industry and add some real value to our customers, because our customers like doing things to their homes. We're helping them in a really digital way to try and do that. But what we've really tried to think about is, how do we do it in a way that is still very consistent with the brand, okay, but recognising that we don't want to put loads of people and touch points in there that are unnecessary and create friction. We really want to allow the quality trades that we have gone out and recruited to do the great jobs for the customers, with us taking an appropriate but not overly forward role in that. And I guess that's where Twilio comes in, because what we're describing here is the three-way relationship between the customer, the tradesperson, and the contact centre. And at certain times, it's really important that we're in that three-way conversation. So that might be because we're doing a really big quotation job. We have been quoting for jobs up to £25,000–30,000 or so, and therefore, it isn't just about a relationship between the tradesperson and the customer. Okay, but in other instances, it's a really transactional job. And, it might just be about, going and doing a boiler service. And actually that can all be done really, digitally. We can take a back seat in that, and the customer gets the peace of mind knowing that we've done the work up front to make sure that the person who turns up on their door is really great, is going to behave in the way that they would want, and they get a 12-month guarantee out the back of it. So it's about really understanding the different use cases that we've got going on in different transactions, and then using the technology, Twilio in this case, to ensure that that's appropriate for the customer. And where we need to add value, we do, and where we need to take a back seat, then we do equally. And we're really pioneering on that. And then what we're trying to do is bake those solutions back into the main business to understand how can this help, because we've got lots of similar use cases. But at the moment, your experience with John Lewis would pretty much be, you pick up the phone and there's someone on the end of the phone. That doesn't always need to be the case, of course. There are people in this room who know that far better than I do. So, just talking a little bit about the future, basically we see a huge amount of opportunity in this. We can add loads of different propositions. Smart home is particularly interesting for us in this space. At the moment, we've only gone out into 2 small areas. So we started in Milton Keynes, and we've now just launched out into the southwest, but we'll be coming to London probably in the next couple of months or so. But also, we really want to evolve the product as we move forward. And I guess that's where communication becomes really important. Understanding that a customer who is booking a £20,000 landscaping job has very different needs from a customer who is booking a boiler service. That's really important for us. And then how do we curate that journey to make sure that it feels really consistent and use technology appropriately to be able to do that? So the final bit that I just wanted to sort of leave you with, which is my reflection, I guess, having been on this journey for sort of 8 or 10 months or so, is the ventures unit that we've set up in John Lewis isn't the answer to the digital transformation of John Lewis that we undoubtedly need to go on. It's part of it. There are lots of other great activity going on elsewhere. But the biggest obstacle, I think, is one around culture. And our culture has been very much predicated, as I said earlier, on that point of, we're about the human interaction. And the culture gap that I think exists is how do you take, for John Lewis Partnership, how do you take the human and the digital and put them together and try and make that better experience for the customer so that when they want that human contact, they get it, but equally when humans just get in the way and create friction, they're not there. And we've really got to address that, and that's the biggest piece that we're talking about as an organisation, about being comfortable in that space, that we might not have lots of contact with our customers for lots of the different interactions, but that's fine because we can still create loyalty and emotion to the brand in a very digital way. Thank you.